What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Risk Valor. I'm your host, Alyssa, and for those who are new to the channel, I'm happy to have you here. This is a platform for women to share their stories and their experiences, inspiration, and to help you know that your story matters too. And today we absolutely have a treat. Stephanie Simon is my guest. She is a previous active duty officer and now serving in the Marines Reserve as an amphibious assault officer. She is also in the Hall of Fame for boxing, and I can't wait to hear more about it. So welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm really excited to be on this podcast. And I've heard so many great things. So
I love
excited
it.
to dive in.
Yeah. Is this your first podcast that you've ever been on?
No, I've been on
Okay,
on
cool.
a few. So, but not very many women veteran ones. And
Okay.
so this is the second one, and I feel like that's always a special one for me because there are a lot of us out there. We just don't know each other. Feel like
Yeah.
it's hard to find each other sometimes. So this is like a great way to be able to share our stories and kind of connect. So I really do love it.
I love it too. And
Yeah.
I've been watching as soon as we were connected. So for those who obviously don't know the background story, like you were referred to me by, I don't know, does he work with you, Josh? But he's a photographer that I know from the creative space world. And also vets.
Right.
I seem to attract a lot of the vets, whether they're creatives or not, because I do a
Mhm.
little bit on the creative side as well as this now. So I don't know
Yeah.
how,
No,
but
Josh is,
yeah,
I work with him and
yeah.
he's like, hey, you should look into a podcast with my friend. And then he sent me your account. I was like, absolutely. This is great. Like, thanks for thinking
Yeah.
of me. I'm glad I am worthy enough to be on a podcast. So
No, it's always, I always say it's my honor to talk to all these women
yeah.
because the women that I have on, it's like I like to say it's vetted, but it's really like you're self-aware, you're unapologetic, you're doing great things.
Mhm.
Obviously a vet, that's all, or not, you're still in. So anyways, military period is always going to have a special place in my heart, so I'll always open up the platform for that. But I
Thank
am
you.
excited to get right into it. But I guess where we would start is, are you so before, like, who you are now and who you were, you maybe growing up, were you always the athlete? Like, who were you before? Share that.
I was like a very confusing person because I was the
Mhm.
athlete, but I was the band geek. I was like the entertainer, artsy.
Okay.
So it's kind of all the things above, but the athlete definitely always have been always that's
Awesome.
always been a part of me. Military slash like structured. I've always been structured, but the military interest came from my dad. He was actually a Marine as well. He was a major. Uh he was an artillery officer, just like you.
Oh.
So and then he retired when I was like, I don't know, like 4 years old. There's actually a picture of me and him. I'm like looking up at him, and he's giving his little retirement speech, and it's over in Camp Lejeune. And on my last day, active duty, I took a picture of the same place, and like
Oh, that's
it was kind of like a
awesome.
very special moment. Like time goes by fast, and definitely he
Yeah.
was an inspiration for why I became a military person. So
I love to hear that. So other than being
um,
an athlete, that I was not an athlete growing up, and I always share that
mhm.
because what I became afterwards when I joined the military, did bodybuilding, it's like I became an athlete.
Right.
Um, but it's funny because my dad is what inspired me to join the army. He's just like, don't go enlisted like I did. And I was like, okay, Roger that. So but no one else, I have three sisters, no one else went military besides me. For some reason it struck me different. I think you're just built different, like we have a different mindset. There's something,
For
whether it was
sure.
the patriotism or whatever that higher mission was. It was a calling for me, but my sisters are like, hell no, like it's not for me.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, same with my siblings. They didn't
Yeah.
join either. So, and
Yeah.
it is what it is. We're
See,
all
we have
got
a
our
lot more
own paths.
similarities. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I love
absolutely.
that. So obviously a lot of people, and a lot of people, I also mean mostly me. I want to hear more about this boxing thing. Is that the athletics you were in before, or how did you get into that? And it's completely transformed to be, I want to say, a lot of who you are.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
As a kid, I grew up like Taekwondo was my first sport, and then I
Oh
transitioned
wow.
into wrestling, track and field, football. I played a lot of sports,
Mm-hmm.
but my initial goal was to actually wrestle in college. I attended the Naval Academy, United States Naval Academy, and unfortunately, there they didn't have women's wrestling. However, they required all freshmen to take boxing and wrestling, so we all had to have, like a little bit of
Okay.
experience with both. And I validated the wrestling class, no problem, obviously because I grew up as a wrestler. But the boxing class, in order to validate it, I had to take it in the summertime. So I was like, well, let me get this thing out of the way. Let me like do this for a couple weeks in the summer so I don't have to take it during the academic year. And then I ended up really liking it. And
Wow.
at the Naval Academy, that's where I got into boxing. And I was also the track and field captain, but then I was also in the glee club. So I would like
Oh, that's so
sing
cool.
too. It's just weird. Like I said, very a lot of random like interests that all coming together some way somehow. I'm trying my best to make that work, but yeah, a lot of different interests, a lot of like random passions, I feel like, but boxing definitely is the thing that I feel like I'm the most focused on right now, and the thing that
Yeah.
I feel like I love the most. And then obviously the Marine Corps boxing, that's where I spent like the last 2 years of my active duty time was on the Marine Corps boxing team.
That's
So
so
it was
cool.
thank
I'm
you.
like,
Thank you.
I'm like, oh, envious, or I don't know, it's inspiring. That is. I'm like,
No,
that's so cool. Yeah, so
I appreciate it.
I did like a little bit of boxing, but not like competitively.
Right.
I just did it for fun. I was like, this is kind of therapeutic. Like, why? Like, I wish, and it's never too late, right? Never too late to pick
No.
something up. Like, I have a bag in the back that I'll pretend I know what I'm doing with. But and I've gone to some classes here and there, but I'm
Hmm.
like, it's so interesting to me, the different types of, I call it therapy. Like in the gym is therapy for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I think boxing is the same, and I like to make that that connection between like boxing footwork, because it's hard, it's tough if you're
It
not, you
is.
know. So like things with footwork is the same things in life. Like you have to be calculated, you have to have
Hmm.
rhythm and routine. So, and
Absolutely.
I'm sure that crosses over like that boxing into your personal life, maybe
Yeah.
professional. Yeah.
No, it does. And no, I'm glad you mentioned that because I feel a lot of times people, it's hard to correlate athletics or
Mhm.
sports with what you do in your day to day, but fighting and just combative sports in general, they really do kind of correlate with life. You know, you're going to get knocked down all the time. It's not really about the knockdown. It's more so if
Mhm.
you get up, you know, getting up is like the most important part in fighting
Yeah.
back. And then the whole idea of having a plan until you get hit, like that's a big one too in
Mhm.
life. We all have these glorious plans. We all have
Yeah.
these goals in mind, and then as soon as we, you know, experience friction or any type of, I don't know, like negativity towards us, you know, it's like, okay, are you still going to go with that plan? So I'm sure you experience the same thing in the military. It's like
Mhm.
you have this beautiful idea of what you want to do, and you have like a path that you want to go, and you envision yourself in the 5 year plan, 10 year plan, and then things start to kind of maybe go differently, and it's kind of all about how you. I'm on a podcast, guys. See you later. Love y'all. Those are my teammates. I'm
Yeah.
at the Olympic Training Center right now, so
Yeah.
they're bothering me, these guys. But it's kind of all about um how you correct your course, you know,
Yeah.
and realize that not everything that you had planned at the moment is what's going to be a part of your story later on. Things could change, and that's okay, you know.
Yeah.
So that's how boxing is too. It's like, all right, well, I thought I was going to do this, but I guess we're going to do this.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I mean,
So
I'm a huge like Rocky fan. So I'm like, I love
yeah.
all of his quotes and stuff. Like, you know, it's not about how hard you get hit.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Never
love that.
heard.
You
Yeah,
like it?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely obsessed. But so with like the boxing piece, with does that correlate at all to your experience as an active duty officer? Like, I guess as a female officer, number one,
yeah.
I feel, at least this was my experience, and some others have shared the same, whether they were officer or not, you
Mhm.
are held to kind of a different standard. If you're
Yeah,
surrounded by, I was in a male dominant branch, I'm assuming yours possibly as
yeah,
well. So it's like you
yeah.
have to almost earn your keep, earn that respect. Like I was in the 82nd, so I went and I did pre-ranger course because I was like, I need to, all these guys are tabbed. And I was like, at least go to the course, see what it's all about,
Right.
trained up for it, passed a lot. And then it got to this 12-mile ruck. And I'm like, I've done so many rucks, and that one was like the worst in my entire life and did not do well. I finished. I did not quit. That was the one thing. I'm like, because if you get quit, you
Not
can't be
quit.
asked to go back. And it's also just a mentality thing. I'm like, I'm not a quitter. And that's one of my favorite like quotes of all time with Audie Murphy is, I hate failure. I'm gonna finish the thing I set out to do. I hate quitters. I hate failure. And not that I would necessarily agree with the failure part. That's evolved over time for me. I think failure
For
is
sure.
stepping forward. Because, you know, it's like, oh, you're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I also think like, yeah, if you do something, there's a chance you'll fail, but there's also a chance that you'll succeed. So I think
Absolutely.
failure is a necessary thing sometimes. If you have a chance.
Yeah, and it's also it's misunderstood what failure
Mhm.
actually is, because I feel like failure is kind of more like you didn't try, you kind of half-ass something, and then you like
Yeah.
get done with something, you're like, oh, this isn't the result I expected, and everything kind of goes wrong, but it's not because, it had nothing to do with it not being a part of your path, but it had everything to do with you being lazy or not really applying yourself the way you should have. To me,
Mhm.
that's like failure. That's like, man, you failed yourself or kind of not taking responsibility for something and not caring about the people around you, kind of just like like to me that's more failure. But if you try and do your best and you did the ruck and you did the best you
Yep.
could
Yeah.
and you didn't give up, so to me, in my opinion, I don't see that as a failure.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't get the time you were supposed to get, but you did what most people don't have the guts to do, so
And I'm
I
like,
say
I
I take
think,
it as a win.
yeah. And I was like, a lot of people didn't even tempt the school. So I was like, whatever.
Exactly.
But for women, I think there is just a different, there's a different culture to it in the military. There still is. It's not like, it's not like a pay gap or something like that. I think it's a cultural thing. Um,
Yeah,
you
no,
know, hmm
I don't even know where to get started with that. I was the first
yeah,
amphibious assault female officer in the entire East Coast. Pretty much,
that's awesome.
it was like I showed up and I had people telling me, "Ma'am
Hmm
slash Stephanie, uh, not to like upset you, but your entire platoon, even though you haven't even like really checked in with them yet and haven't taken over, they're all upset. They don't want you to be their platoon commander because you're a female and you're the first female platoon commander here. And they looked you up and they've all done their stalking to see who you are and see what you're about. And that's what they do. And
Yeah,
I'm sure they do it with every officer that comes in, but it's definitely a lot more scrutiny on the female officers that come in that are new to the unit because it's like, oh, what dirt can we find? What
hmm
can we hold against her? Because at the end of the day, we are not held to the same standard at all, and you have to
no,
be a freaking freak of nature. So I was out there doing 20 something pull-ups, running, beating them all in the runs. And no, I was,
yeah,
finishing top of my class for MOS school. And it just never felt like enough ever. I
wow,
never felt like enough. And I did the platoon commander thing. I had, 60 Marines I was in charge of and like multiple millions of dollars worth of equipment that I had to manage and I had to do all this stuff. And I was thinking to myself, like, wow, this is I feel like this is awesome. Like I'm doing it. I'm doing my thing and I'm doing it as a female. But whenever I was there at the time, it felt like I just I was just like average, it was hard. Um and over time, I think I started losing patience and I started becoming kind of impulsive and I would react kind of like negatively, whether it be venting on social media or
hmm
not using tact whenever I would speak to people or higher ups, and it kind of
yeah,
did backfire on me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. So
yeah.
yeah,
And I can
but
draw a similarity to that. And a couple points that you sparked something in me is
mhm,
the fact that there's obviously the different standard piece, but also the fact that
yeah,
like, oh, I'm not enough. And like obviously you do know at this point you are enough. And if you need someone to
I
tell you that, I'll tell
appreciate
you that
that.
right now. Like you
Thank you,
100%.
thank
But
you.
it does take a lot. And it's like you have to outwork people. You have to
Yeah,
outsmart them. You have to out
hmm,
everything them. I also had an issue. I still do with my mouth. That my tact sometimes, or like if something's stupid, I'm gonna say it. That got me in trouble
yeah,
more times than not because I didn't care what rank you had.
yeah,
And I was like that in college too before I actually understood the rank. I got better when I was active duty, but there was times when I was like, this doesn't make sense or it's affecting my soldiers, and that's my responsibility or those guys. So I'm like, if it's stupid, I'm gonna say something, or if it's wrong, and obviously there's a lot of, I mean, you're still in, so you don't have to dive too much into it, but there is like some political stuff that happens and goes on that
Oh
is
yeah.
just that I never could get with. I didn't drink the Kool-Aid, as they say. So interpersonal tact was also like, it was a big thing because if my mouth didn't say it, my face would show it. Like
Right.
that's who I am though. I've always been that way. And it got me in a lot of trouble.
Same.
So I
Yeah.
completely get it. And then the female piece, because I think it's amazing when female join. There's also, there's always be the good boys club that think like women shouldn't be in combat, women shouldn't do
For
this, women
sure.
shouldn't do this. Um, and I'm like, screw that. I don't care about societal norms because I mean, where would we be
Mm-mm.
today if everything was always, the way
Based
it
off
always
of,
has been? Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
supposed to be a housewife forever.
No, and it's funny because I think the biggest emotional meltdowns and the biggest fissy, like I don't know, like hissy fits that I've ever seen, and the
Hmm.
biggest complaints I've ever seen, or the biggest like it all came from men.
Hmm.
It came from the male Marines. Like they're the ones that I noticed had the most emotions. I'm just like confused because they made it out to be, it's like gaslighting, like making us feel like we as women were the uncontrollable, overly emotional ones. But the most like reckless behavior and just like crying, drunk, being just out of control, out of
Yeah.
pocket completely. Like the most I ever saw any of that happen was with males. And so I just thought it was interesting that that finger pointing was going on all the time. I'm like, no, it's actually kind of the opposite. And
Yeah.
I feel like maybe if people would just look internally more and stop projecting so much, they
Yep.
would see that those things that they're saying about females, about women Marines or soldiers or whatever, it's kind of how they actually feel about themselves deep down. And
Yep.
yeah, I remember even checking into a unit, and it was not even 2 weeks in, and the staff NCO told me, ma'am, I still don't believe women should be in combat arms roles or combat arms jobs in the Marine Corps because you guys are just too emotional. And old me, right before this happened,
Would have been like,
I would have just popped off and been like, "Well, you're fat, you're out of shape, you're a staff sergeant, and you've been in 20 years, so I can sit here and have a whole conversation with you about that, but I'm not going to." So I kind of asked him to explain why, and that's a big thing too. Is
yeah,
as
okay.
officers, you start telling people, asking them, explain why you think that. Then
Hmm.
you realize that they back themselves up into a corner because they really can't explain why. And then
Yeah.
after a while, it's funny because when you start to succeed or do well, then they start hitting you up. Oh, that's awesome, man! Congratulations! And that same person that was telling you that you shouldn't be in whatever role or position you were in, now they're your fan because you almost like made them look stupid or feel like, oh wow, I'm wrong. And to do that,
Yeah.
you have to be calculated. You have to be a couple steps ahead. And you got to
Hmm.
use this more than, like your anger and stuff. So I feel like that's probably what I learned the most from being in active duty and being around a lot of people that don't think the way I do. There's probably a lot of points you could pick from that too, I'm sure.
No, there
But
is. There's a lot that I love
yeah.
about what you said because thinking before you speak, and I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of that tact in that, and it kind of makes me think like you must have a very good support system or a mentor that has helped you. I know there were mentors in my life that helped me get through
Yes.
the active
Yeah.
duty side that I could go to be like, hey, because I was not the officer. I was advised by a mentor, don't show up as a butter bar, and that's the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
second lieutenant when you first get in, and it's for the army. And they're like, don't show up and think that you know everything because you don't. You went to one schoolhouse, you have zero experience. And I was like, okay, Roger that. Like, I know nothing, right? Go
Absolutely.
to your soldiers, go to your NCOs. But a lot of people don't have that mentorship. But I think to be as solid as you are, there's got to be like a support system or mentorship that's really important to that for
No,
you.
absolutely. And then every time I got knocked down at every point in my
Hmm.
career, there was a mentor or someone to help me kind of get back up. And, one of the best mentors I had in the Marine Corps active duty side,
Yep.
I met him about halfway through my time, halfway towards like right before I joined the Marine Corps boxing team. And I mean, he actually listened. I think that was the biggest difference between him and any other like boss that I'd had, he was my boss because he was
Yeah.
my CEO and I was his XO. But he actually listened. Like we would talk and he would not talk and he wouldn't talk
Yeah.
over me. And he would just hear what I had to say and then give his feedback and his input. Then he would speak very like he would speak slowly and try to give multiple courses of actions or COAs or whatever,
Yeah.
and play devil's advocate without coming across as like kind of an asshole. Because sometimes
Yeah.
people like play devil's advocate and then they say something that's just like
Off
completely
the wall.
insensitive and off the wall. It's like you're no, like he did it, but in a very tactful way. And he made me challenge my thoughts and beliefs. And he pushed me and challenged me again, like in a very it was like in a motivational way. I actually wanted to be there. I wanted to serve and I wanted to be a Marine when I was in
Hmm.
his presence, which not a whole lot of people were able to do that because
Yeah.
how being an officer at some point it becomes more of the office and the officer role, and
Yeah.
you don't get to do the cool stuff anymore, especially once you're an
Hmm.
XO.
Yeah.
Um, you're not with all the guys, and you're not doing all the cool, there's the stuff that you see in the movies, right? You start doing more of like, okay, after actions or write this order, do this, do that,
Hmm.
and now you're sitting literally behind a desk and it's like, dang, how do I keep that my spirits up? How do I keep that energy that I did when I was doing the fun stuff? So he was able to bring that back into, my soul. So
Yeah. And that's really
yeah,
important. I think that
yeah,
support and that mentorship. Because I can obviously say the same. It's like it's more
yeah,
PowerPoints and slides and all the meetings and beans and
yep,
bullets. Like you resource everything. So although it is important, how I ended up doing it was I would go out with my supply
hmm,
soldiers and I would go do the food runs out in the field because sometimes they wouldn't need me out there right away because I had to be resourcing the ammo. I had to be doing whatever
right,
we had to do. But I was like, I found a way to be active because they want to see you too. Like you could just stay in the rear, but I was very much the same way where I'm like, I just want to be doing stuff. I want to be like laughing with
yeah,
the guys, bringing morale up. I'm like, everyone loves food, so I'm gonna go show up when food shows up.
with food. Who
Yeah,
wants food? Yeah, no,
that's like
everyone
the
would
best
love you
part.
if you do that.
Yeah, I'm like, food is like that's the real morale boost when the coffee comes in the morning and the hot chow comes at
And the
night.
chow,
Yeah,
absolutely,
I love
it's
that. But
true.
yeah, and so with everything that you're doing, and this is a common question, that's why I like to talk about it, is this thing of balance. Like having balance in your life. How are you balancing being an athlete, being, a reservist, and anything else you do? I don't know if you like do other things on the side, but it's like there's got to be a key to that. So, and the reason I ask too is because there's a lot of females like listeners who come on and
Right,
and don't know how to pour into themselves. They don't know how to continue with their passions or the feeling like some of us have kids or families and that
right.
a really demanding job. How can they still find time for themselves to do the thing that they love to do?
Um, I mean, everyone's day is packed with stuff. Everyone's day
Mm-hmm.
is busy. And to be honest, mine after active duty, my days are not nearly as crazy and busy as they were. I'm not technically working right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the transition of turning pro in a couple
Yeah.
months, professional boxing. So I'm still an amateur boxer. I'm going to do the Olympic trials. But because the only two things I'm really focused on right now are, well, it's three, I guess, but mainly two, but it's reserves. So,
Yep.
once a month doing reserve duty, and then the boxing that's training 3 times a day, competing throughout the year. And then in between, that's where I'm kind of trying to find time for like social media growth and posting
Absolutely.
and just creating content. And that in itself, it takes time if you're actually trying to do it correctly and trying to do it well and with
Mm-hmm.
quality. I'm sure you know that.
Yeah.
So that's a whole nother world and atmosphere that I don't really know that well because, active duty military, you don't really care about that stuff.
Nope.
That's
I
not really
didn't.
your focus. No.
Nope. I didn't even have
So
it.
yeah, you're told like that's crap and the Chinese are going to use that to get to your information. So you better not have TikTok, you better not have all that stuff. They're going to steal your information. So that's what they used to tell us. But
Yeah.
now that I've transitioned, I think the one of the best ways for me that I find time for everything is I make sure that there's always a couple hours set aside for the me time and the things that I like to do. For me, that's music. I play 5 instruments, piano, guitar, trumpet, drums. I
Wow.
play the bass and I sing. And I try to find a little bit of time every day to just do that because when I play my instruments and I do my covers and I do my music stuff, um, an hour feels like 5 minutes. And it's one of those things where it's one of the few activities where I truly feel like I can like get away and like escape. So I feel like everyone should have that, whether it's working out, playing an instrument, going on a hike, whatever that may be for you. I feel like it doesn't matter if you have kids or don't have kids, married, not,
Mhm.
you have to have that time for yourself. And it's not selfish.
Mhm.
It's not selfish. Like you're not being selfish for taking time for you because at the end of the day, if you don't take time for you definitely not gonna be able to be available for others because you're just gonna be in like a crappy mood all the time, you know?
Yeah.
So um I know in the military they say weapon gear self. And I feel like that can be, I'm sure that's true in a combat scenario, but in real life, like if you don't take care of yourself first, you're not gonna be able to even do anything else. So you have to put yourself first in this world and in this life. You have to make sure that you're okay, and that you're good here and here before you attack the day and do all this other stuff and run all these errands. So, and then the other thing too, for me personally, is I like for my personality to bleed into whatever it is that I'm doing, because then it doesn't feel like whatever it is that I'm doing is like daunting or miserable. Because I feel like when you're doing something and you feel like you can't be yourself,
Mhm.
it feels like hell. And I felt like in active duty, it felt like that because I'm a very bubbly, like very I just have high energy and I'm
Yeah.
very like colorful. Like I'm freaking all over the place. And I felt like I couldn't be that way in active duty
Mhm.
without coming across as unprofessional or a jokester. Even though I didn't drink alcohol, I never smoked, never did anything crazy. Like I wasn't a
Yeah.
shitbag or anything like that. Sorry for cussing, but
No, you're fine.
um, just dancing in front of Marines or like even showing a little bit of personality was seen as like, oh, you know, there she goes again, not being a good Marine. So I think in the reserves, it's a little bit easier to be able to have that personality and to
Mhm.
kind of be yourself without being judged as much. So that's again like kind of correlating that into your question. If you can find a way to still be yourself in whatever it is you're doing, and even in boxing, right? Um, I'm trying my best to be Stephanie, to like
Yeah.
be the silly person I am without being unprofessional or not focusing, but still having that so that I can feel like I'm my full self at all times, you know? And I feel like if you can find that balance throughout your day, it just makes life just a lot more enjoyable, you know?
It does. I love everything you said.
Yeah.
Because I think it's like you don't
Thank
water
you.
yourself down. It's like you're 100 proof.
No.
Like take me as I am, and it
Yeah.
is hard. It's a hard balance to strike when you're like I'm supposed to be professional and we're just a uniform. We're just a whatever
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
body. But so I like that you've been able to differentiate that and you're very well spoken on it. And I think it speaks high levels about who you are and where you're going. And I
I
love that you're
appreciate that.
currently on your journey to be a pro too, because I think that's the most exciting time to talk to people. Like I'm currently on my
Yeah.
journey where
Yeah.
I got lost in the sauce after like I hate to say caged in corporate America, trying
Oh
to
my
find my way
gosh.
out. So it's not my passion. I went from, a lot of people that get out of the military, loss of purpose, loss of camaraderie, loss
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
loss of self a little bit. That individuality piece is just like, who the heck am I out of uniform? Because I thought I was
Heck
gonna be doing
yeah.
this forever. So now, like even this, like speaking to other people serving who have served or have a passion for this, that, and the other, like it helps me, it helps other people. That's the camaraderie piece. Is like, and especially the female piece, like female
Yeah.
connections that I've made. I'm like, women are just so catty. It's in everywhere in the military. It was like that outside the military growing up,
Yep.
like even in the social media space, because I know you touched on social media. Um, it's a weird world we're living in. And
Yeah.
it's super weird. And I'm like, there's enough uh there needs to be a lot more love put out there to people. It's like let's support like each other. Let's support the other women doing great things. Like, good for them. Like, good for you. Like, you found your thing, and no one's gonna stop you, and you know that. Like, you're at
Yeah.
that point where you're like you take a swing at me, you know. And I
I
bet
dare
like,
ya.
yeah, I dare you. Like, that's someone, like, if you see her, I wouldn't fuck around. So, but yeah, so like, how was I guess now that I'm saying like swings, how was it to take your first punch ever? Because I know that was like weird the first time I got like hit in a little whatever during a boxing practice. I was like, oh my god. I was like, okay.
Um, it's well, I think there's usually two reactions. There's
Yeah,
like, I want to get you back, or there's like,
yeah,
I want to get the heck out of here.
yeah.
Um,
Fight or flight.
fight or flight, yeah. But I feel like if, especially like military women, like I feel like most of us are like, okay, I'm gonna get that back. You know, I'm gonna
Yeah.
come back at you. I want my payback. So that's kind of how it was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was fun. It was definitely fun. However, it's not fun when like you're about to get knocked out. Like that's different. Like
Yeah,
getting hit with a good one, that's cool. But when it's like you start seeing the stars and start wobbling a little bit,
yeah,
that's when you're like, okay, remember this is a dangerous activity. Keep your hands up, protect yourself at all times, chin down, you know, just focus on the fundamentals. There's definitely a balance, you know, because sometimes it's like, okay, this is fun, got hit and we get you back, and other times it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm seeing stars.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that especially sparring men,
Mm-hmm.
um the guys, they just hit hard and they have
Yeah,
a lot of power. Even the smaller guys that I train with. And if I'm not like on my P's and Q's, and if I'm not very, very technical, like everything perfect and right, if I just open up a little bit with maybe I'm like trying to swing at them and I open up and leave an opening, it could be a very bad day. So definitely gotta be careful with that. But yeah, I mean I think too the wrestling background helped as well because wrestlers, you know, we go through hell in practice and we kind of get beat up
yeah,
every day in practice. So it's like similar mindset, one on one, like combat sport. So there's a lot of similarities and correlations between the two. Obviously, you're not punching someone in wrestling, but they're still very, very much so similar in the sense that it's like extremely aggressive
yeah.
physical sport. Yeah.
That's
But
awesome. I
thank
love what
you.
you're
But
doing.
yeah.
So, as
Okay.
this competitive boxer, you say that you have obviously that goal of going pro fairly soon.
Mhm.
Um, so being goal oriented, period. Like, I'm assuming once you get there, you're a high achiever, right? Like, you have your aspirations are high, and which is amazing because it's like, and I use this a lot when I say, like, once you get to the top of a mountain, it doesn't end for people that are high achievers. There's going to be another mountain in distance you want to scale. Is there
For
anything you see
sure.
beyond that pro? Like, once you go pro, is there something else you want to do? Do you ever want to open up, like, I don't know, boxing, like coaching, or do you want to go something like, are you gonna try to go like WWE? Do you want to do entertainment? Like, what's in the works for Stephanie?
I would definitely want to get into like the business side of things, opening up gyms and
Yeah.
starting my own business. But I want to be an entertainer. At the end of the day, that's what I've like at a very young age. I'm like talking like 5 or 6 years old. I would have daydreams of being like in front of a stage or performing in front of people. I was always trying to entertain people all
Hmm.
the time. Like that was more important to me than sports.
Yeah.
And the thing is I realized quickly that athletics and sports was a way that I could entertain people. It was like I guess a foundation or a platform
Yeah.
that I could use, you know? And so that's my goal is to use boxing as a platform to entertain people. And I know we don't follow each other. We haven't followed each other for long, but
Mhm.
you'll see the more I'm on Instagram and back at home and not at the training center. I wear wigs. I do impersonations, accents. I do my Michael Jackson impersonation. I was literally running around in Campbell's June Walmart a couple years ago, literally dressed up like Michael Jackson doing the moonwalk, and it's on YouTube. But like that's what I love to do, and
Yeah.
that's where I want to kind of go
Yeah.
eventually. And again, through boxing, a lot of very high level, high achieving athletes and fighters, they find themselves kind of in that entertainment
Yeah.
realm, like, you know, Ronda Rousey and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
the, I mean, even Conor McGregor is going to be in a new movie, Roadhouse. Like a lot of these guys and girls, they find themselves in opportunities where they can be entertainers because of their background in fighting. And I'm sure you've seen The Mandalorian,
Yeah.
but Gina, whatever her name is, she was, and not to be mean, but a lot of them can't act and can't do accents and have no stage presence at all. But
Yeah.
imagine if you saw a fighter that has both. Like that'd be cool, right? So
Yeah.
I want to be that one that like the fighter that can sell it, that can actually,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Have
You
the
don't have a stunt
entertainment.
double. It is you.
No,
You are the
exactly,
stunt double.
exactly. No, but people have asked me like, would you ever want to be a stunt double? I'm like, I mean, I kind of want to be the main character, you know? Like if you're a stunt double, you don't get to be the main character. So um
You get to
yeah,
see your name in
that's
the
where I want to
credits.
go. Right,
Yeah.
right. But it's just interesting though because um entertainment in itself has changed a lot
Oh yeah.
since, you know, when we were kids. And I guess like in my mind, this visual I have of like, oh, casting call and a movie and stuff like that. It's like it's not really like that as much
Mm-hmm.
anymore. You can literally be an entertainer from your phone
Mm-hmm.
and from your accounts and make money, make a lot of good money and make a name for yourself literally through your social media. And that's actually what I see is happening a lot more so than the opposite, like what it used to be
Yeah.
back in the day. So I feel like my mindset and my I guess my thought process of how to get there, it needs to shift and be more like modern. And I got to figure that out. I'm still trying to because I really don't know exactly how it's going to look, but I just know I want to get there.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm here for it. I'm here to support you and clap
Thank
for
you.
you and all that stuff. So if you ever have any questions
Thank you.
offline, like I'm here for it because I love like the seeing what social media can do because it's very much
For sure.
relevant, you know. So it's that's exciting, and I'll have to connect you
Thank
with some
you.
people. But that'd be I'm excited. I'm
Hey,
excited for you. Like, and
thank you.
I'm like absolutely 100% here for it.
Thank you so
Like I
much.
will
Thank
watch your
you.
movie, even if you're the stunt double. I'm gonna be like, I know that person. Or because you're out in Florida,
So
right?
I live in Florida.
Yeah.
I'm not in Tampa though, like Josh.
Yeah.
I think he's in Tampa, right? I actually drive like 4 hours to drill every
Okay.
weekend for drill. I'm in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. So
Okay.
um
Dang, I was just in Fort
yeah.
Lauderdale for Memorial Day. We did the Murph. So I'm like, but the thing
Dang
is,
it.
so my son is there in Florida now. He's out in the Fort Myers area. So
Okay.
with his dad, that's where he lives. So
Okay.
I do go to Florida a decent amount, or I'm trying to. So like I know now, I'm like, I want to get my ass kicked today, Stephanie. Can you
Yes.
like kick my
No,
ass, please?
we can do a one for one
Yeah.
swap. I do one of your workouts, you do one of
Yeah.
mine. I think that'd be really cool. And
That'd
then
be
just, you
fun.
know,
Yeah, and
yeah,
everyone can
there's a lot
watch.
of
Yeah.
yeah.
That would be
I'm not
so
very
fun.
good at the weight. I like lifted a lot of weights for track and field
Yeah.
back in college, but like I don't really do crazy. Like, I have no flexibility, so any type of like Olympic lifting is like, oh, this is awkward. So
But I
I'll
bet your
embarrass
endurance
myself.
is like, oh, I'll embarrass myself. I'll be like
No, no.
not guarded, and I'll be like, fuck.
I just hit you with a pad. Keep
Yeah.
your hands up,
Yeah.
like Mr. Miyagi or something. But
Like we're planning that
um,
after this. I'm gonna come
yeah,
out and we're gonna create some dope stuff and get my
that'd
ass
be
kicked.
great.
So yeah. So I'm like,
Absolutely. And then yeah,
yeah.
hit
Sorry,
up
continue.
Josh too. I said we can hit up
There.
Josh and you can take some pictures and help us out too. So
There we go. It'll be fun. Get everyone involved.
yeah,
That like kind of ties into like the empowerment piece, the female
for
piece,
sure.
the community piece. I think community is important, which is what I'm trying to do with this passion project. It's like we're like I said, not nice enough to each other. Not like maybe we, but as a whole. And like I've
Yeah,
had my times where it was like, you know, the cattiness got to me or I deflected or acted the same way because that's how I'm being treated. So I'm gonna give it back. But I'm in such a different place now mentally where I'm like,
yeah.
I can't control what I can't control. I'm a God fearing person, so I'm like God's got my back type thing. But I think so when it comes to like empowerment, do you find yourself talking to a lot of women? Like, do women come to you for? I'm assuming
Yeah,
like I would. So I'm like, so how do
yeah.
you navigate that empowerment piece or putting that power back into somebody?
The first thing that I pretty much set the stage with whatever like person, girl I'm talking to about
Mm.
empowerment or about leadership or about like living your life, being the best version of yourself. I'm always very honest with them. And I never, ever, ever tried to come across as someone that's made it or
Yeah.
someone that's some success story or someone that's
Yeah.
reached all these, because it's very easy to see that and to like think like, oh, that person has it all. They have all these national championships. I make it very clear on my social media that I have failed many times, that I've fallen flat on my face, that I've been rejected. And I think that is what empowers these women the most, is to see that I'm not some superhuman, like
Yeah.
untouchable, perfect. Because I feel like a lot of that is all over social media right now. Is
Fake.
everyone only shows, yeah, it's fake, and everyone shows the great part.
Mm-hmm.
I'm over here showing people, hey everyone, uh, I'm still a lieutenant because I got in trouble.
Yeah.
Guess how I got in trouble? Social media.
Um,
Guess what I learned from social media? You might be right about what you're saying, but if you don't have tact, if you don't have professionalism, and if you're not aware of who's watching,
mm-hmm.
you're gonna mess yourself up. And so again, for me, I feel like that's my greatest approach to empowering and showing other women like you can fall flat on your face, you can get knocked down, you can be the underdog, you can be rejected. Like, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, even here at the Olympic Training Center, I've won multiple national titles in boxing, and I am not on Team USA. I'm the alternate.
That's crazy to me.
And and I'm here right now, and I've been here several times
Mm-hmm.
getting paid $0 to be basically a sparring partner for the number one.
Wow.
And I'm telling people, and I'm like, you see this, you know what's going on. I'm sharing my story, but watch.
Mm-hmm.
One day, it's all going to come together. I'm going to
Yep.
be a world champion, and I'm going to be everything I promised you guys that I would be, because I'm not going to give up. And watch how I do it, and you can do the same thing. Like any single one of you, any, women, like man, who, it doesn't matter. I hope that you can gain inspiration from my story and from my life and how I live and how up and down it is. I hope you can gain a little bit of that inspiration, a little bit of that like drive to go out there and face your fears, to go out there and get after whatever it is that that you've been put here by God to do, you know?
Abs-
That's my approach. I know it's a long-winded one, but like I
No, I got
hate,
goosebumps. I'm like, ooh,
yeah.
I
No, thank
love
you.
that.
No, I really can't stand the one-sided crap you see.
Yeah.
There's the happy pictures and the traveling and
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff, and it's like, no, I'm showing you everything. I'm showing you that I got a double chin right now. I put on 10 pounds. I feel like crap. Like everything, you guys get to see it all, because at the end of the day, that's the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, that's how it is.
It
So, and
is.
it's okay,
It is okay. You're human and you're humanizing experiences, which I overuse that phrase too,
for
on these
sure.
episodes. And that's it. And there's a reason for it, is because you're not the only one. You have the
No.
same 24 hours. There's a lot of endpoints to it. Is like,
Yeah,
it's not only are we empowering you through personal stories and facing adversity and getting through it and coming out better and taking a punch and
yeah,
being able to get back up, but it's also a light under your ass, because you can't do things without work. You can't be who you want to be if you don't do self work, if you don't figure out who you are, if you don't lose yourself in the
for sure.
process. Like, I mean, you're doing a million different things and you're still yourself. You're funny. You like entertainment. You like your music. Like, I didn't even know that before this episode. It's like you're still like you're a human like
Thank
everyone else.
you.
Like
Yeah,
we're all human. We
yeah,
all have our things, and we can't lose ourselves in the process. So I think it's amazing that you are talking to other people too, because you have a lot of experience and a lot of adversity you've already faced,
for
and
sure,
you
for
just keep
sure.
getting back up. And it's that's sometimes the hard part for people, getting back up,
Yeah,
facing
no, it
themselves.
is.
Yeah.
It is. And it's also sometimes too, we got to be that person that you, like you said, you tell it how it is.
Yep.
And sometimes people don't want to hear that,
Mm-hmm.
but like if people know that you're the one, okay, I know Alyssa's the one where if I ask her something, she's going to tell me straight up.
Yeah.
You are more important to that person than probably the majority of their friends that just
Yeah.
tell them what they want to hear. And so that's another quality I feel, it's actually empowering in a way, because it's like, damn, like I can't hide or run away from the truth when I'm talking to this person, because they're going to be
Yeah.
straight up with me. They're going to give
Yeah.
me their thoughts, their opinions of something that might be kind of touchy for me, but I really want to seek advice that's going to be like unfiltered and no
Yeah.
bull crap. And that is another thing that's very rare in society, is to find
Yeah.
people that actually give that type of feedback, you know? So that's another thing that's part of how I like to, uh, I don't know, it's like kind of how I like to inspire people. Like, hey, like in this life, we get a lot of fluff, we got a lot of fake stuff going on, a lot of flashy cars and money and all this like fancy, especially in Miami, you know.
Yeah. I've heard.
But yeah, but at the end of the day, like if you need someone to speak real with you, I'm here for you for that.
I love
You
that. And
know?
it's
Yeah,
impactful. And it's like be
for
yourself.
sure.
Just be yourself, be real, because it is, like you said, a societal thing to all these chasing dollars is
Yeah,
what I see. And for a while, even I was just like, I guess I gotta chase the dollar, and I had to come
yeah,
because as a single parent, I'm like, holy shit, I need to provide first of all. Um, and so I'm like that part was really hard. And now I'm like following my passions. And I also realized, is there even like someone had asked me this question or I read it in a book and they're just like, okay, well, how much do you need to um be successful? And then I realized I'm like, it's not a dollar amount that's going to make me
mm-mm,
successful. In zero ways
mm-mm.
is that the answer. I'm like, right now, I'm being inspired by the people I talk to, but also it's opening up this platform for women like you and the others that I've had on to share their stories and experiences. And I'm
Absolutely.
like, there's that to me fills my cup, and it makes me like super emotional even talking about it, because it's going to be a very powerful thing. And like anyone that comes on here, it's just a free platform for you and a space, not only a safe space, but it's like it's a space that's safe to say
Yeah,
whatever you want and
absolutely.
share those stories, because they're extremely important, especially in building a community. Because right now it's a very selfish culture, I would say. And we're all inherently a little bit selfish, like because we're
Yeah.
humans and we have to care about number one, but not to the point of like not supporting one another, not being genuinely happy for people or giving them a genuine compliment. I have people listen to my episodes and I'm like, tell me your real feedback. And like my first ever interview I had, they said you got too excited and would talk too much. So now I'm like a better listener. I'm very like, yeah, because
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's not, because I always say it's not a me show, it's not a you show, it's a we show. It's for,
Yeah,
it goes
yeah,
beyond us. Um, so I'm like, I'm now a better listener, because I just
for
get very
sure.
excited when people say things. So I was just like, talk. So I'm like, I seek criticism. I seek that um in life. And I think that's really important, to be open to advice or, inspiration, like being open to the inspiration and the stories that you have. Like, I mean, like, hell, I want
Mhm.
to go like freaking hop on a plane now and yeah, exactly. I'm like, I got a bag in the back, put my freaking gloves on and just
Heck yeah.
go ham.
Well, now I want to start a podcast. I'd be the
Do
one
it.
doing all the talking though. I get definitely would not do well because they'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's about you." So tell me about. No, no, I'm joking. But
Like stick to the plan. Like I used to have a little
yeah,
sign that was just like let them speak.
yes, yes,
Because
yes,
what you guys have to say is so, or ladies, I guess you could say. I do have some men because I think perspective is important. But
yes, yes.
yes, like let them speak. You have a powerful story to tell. And again, on the community piece, I can't say it enough, because that's what this is for. It's we need to build that community. We need to be there for each
For
other and
sure.
support each other. There's a lot of creators that I've reached out to be like, hey, and usually it's the people with large followings that don't want to help you out because they don't want you taking theirs. I'm like, it's not like I'm taking yours. If someone's interested in one thing, they could be interested in another thing. But I was thinking like, okay, why don't I reach out to some of these badass athletes and like do their workout and like put it on YouTube or something. And like so many people knocked
Yeah,
it down because I was a nobody. And so I still say like I'm just a normal person. This is like a small little room in my house that I like put aside for me. And I'm like, it's not that I'm a nobody, but some people get very, selfish in that aspect. It's very individual in social media.
yeah,
And instead of
yeah.
helping each other, we want to like tear each other down and like make sure we're the only ones who get to the top of the mountain. I'm like, there's enough cake for everyone to have a slice at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
they think it's like there's
Like
only this
it's
tiny little cake. That's it.
yeah, I'm
Sorry,
like,
you get that much, I'm not gonna have that. So we can't
yeah,
all make it to the top. What are you talking about?
right? And I'm
What
like,
are you talking about?
and when you disconnect from the dollar piece, because you know that will come, when you actually genuinely believe that, like, hey, what I'm doing, all this effort I'm putting in, like you going to be a pro, you're like, it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. And you know inside yourself, it's gonna fucking happen. And when it does, it's gonna be like that's gonna be a moment that you're gonna remember forever. You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, and even now, like it's very interesting because a lot of the lessons I learned, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but a lot of the lessons I
No, you're
learned
fine.
in the Marine Corps, I've had to apply a lot in my journey with USA boxing and the amateur boxing. Because like the Olympic boxing stuff, that's all
Yeah.
amateurs, completely separate from the pros, from the Canelos and the Mayweathers. Like that's all pro stuff, no
Yeah.
headgear, small gloves. They're making 15 million a fight, crazy stuff like that. The amateurs, we don't make a penny
Mm-hmm.
unless we like medal at the Olympics or Worlds. So this is all just an investment for my pro career. But like I said, with the correlation between active duty Marine Corps and this is, they're all big organizations.
Yeah.
They have their own policies, their own politics. It doesn't matter who you are, what you are, military, non-military, athlete, non-athlete related. It's like every big organization has these things. And if we as people don't learn how to navigate through the
Yep.
politics or through whatever policies or things we don't agree
Mm-hmm.
with, then we'll never end up making a dent or leaving an impact that we want to leave because we're doing this.
Yep.
And I learned that the hard way in the Marine Corps. It didn't take until literally leaving active duty and having to like kind of disassociate with that until I realized like, maybe I could have been a little bit more, just like, yeah, I just could have caused less friction with how I dealt with things there. So I'm kind of dealing with the same thing now, even in boxing. It's the same thing. You got to be smart. You got to be patient. Obviously, don't sell your soul to the devil.
Yeah.
Don't do things that are unjust or like unethical or,
Mm-hmm.
don't do that. But you can't be like, F you, you're a lazy piece of crap, you're dumb, you're this, you're that. And just telling everybody, like pointing a finger at everybody and telling it how it is and telling them what they need to hear because you can't do that in life. You really aren't going to go very far if
Nope.
you do that. You got to have tact, you have to have patience, you have to create relationships with people, even if you don't
Compassion.
necessarily, you don't necessarily like that person, you still have to have some kind of relationship.
Yeah.
You
No, and I
know,
think that's
yeah,
that's an important like message and a good place to stop for us because I know you probably
for
got to go
sure.
get to training, but I
Yeah, I gotta go
appreciate you.
tan. No,
Yeah.
thank you.
No,
No,
but
I'm joking.
no, but I appreciate you coming on and sharing all of that insight with us. Very powerful. I'm excited for when this one is going to come out.
Thank you.
But I am here for everything you are gonna go on. I'm a resource, I'm a friend, whatever you want to call it, sister in arms. I'm here for you, and there are gonna be hell yeah. I don't know, mine look
Oh,
kind of
hey, okay, I
shrimpy right
see
now.
you.
I'll show this one because you can't see with the tattoos.
Hey.
But like I'm here for it and I've got your back and I can't wait to see the amazing things you do and we'll be in contact because I'm planning a Florida trip soon. So
Yay. Thank
specifically
you.
for
And
you, obviously.
yes, thank you. And likewise, and thank you for
Yeah.
having me. It's an honor and a privilege to be on your show. And I can't wait to see it either. So I know you got
Yeah.
like 30 coming up before mine, but
I'm like
you're
trying to book
busy.
them while my son's gone because he's with me 90% of the time. So I'm like, I've been like
Okay.
every day I'm like recording so that I got my son time. But let everyone know where they can find you at so they can follow you and support you.
Okay. So Instagram is Steph Simon 94,
Mhm.
STEPHSIMON 94. And I believe it's the same for TikTok. And then my YouTube channel is Stephanie Simon 123. So that's just Stephanie Simon and then
Got it.
123. Those are pretty much I have Twitter, but I'm not really on there. So but those are the
Me
big
either.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, Twitter, I'm like
Not
words.
really get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Cool. I
all right.
appreciate it. The honor is all mine, but
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
And for all
All
the
right.
listeners. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much.